You're listening to Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport Radio, live from the Welsh capital. The most interactive football show in Wales, featuring guests, fan opinion, and all the latest news surrounding Cardiff City. Have your say and get in touch now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Si. This is Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport. We are here for the next couple of hours. For the first hour, as always, is all things Cardiff City, followed by, from 8 o'clock, hour 2, the Welsh Football Hour. It is a jam-packed show, so I will not hang around to this evening. It is one of those shows where we have a bit of everything. We have fantastic guests. We have the fan opinion, and much more. It is a very, very stressful time for Bluebirds fans as the relegation battle has really, really heated up. Famously, Alex Ferguson called it squeaky bum time, and it is most definitely that. There is no room for error. There is no room for mistakes with big games coming up, especially none more so than versus QPR on Saturday. First up today, I'm delighted, thrilled, no less, because I haven't seen this man for about 20 years. Used to be very close to him. He is, of course, former top UK sports journalist, Mr. Tony Reese. How are you, mates?
I'm very well. Thank you.
Very good to see you. I haven't seen you for a long time, but good to see you looking so healthy, my friend. So, Cardiff, mates, where are we at the moment? It's a stressful and depressing time, but there's no time really to feel sorry for themselves, the players, the club, because they've got 7 massive games coming up.
Well, I think so, and I felt that Saturday's match versus Sheffield Wednesday was pivotal. I said it all week. Felt that we had to win the game. I think that before the Sheffield Wednesday game, the chances of Cardiff City staying in the division was 60-40 in our favour. I believe now that's diminished to 50-50. And I'm serious about that. I think it's very much on a knife edge now. It was a game they should have won. Quite frankly, they should have been 3 up at half time. And the Sheffield Wednesday goal, which is a poor goal to concede, to be honest. Powerful header with the centre back. Should have only been a consolation. And he rose between two of our centre halves. Now, we don't get goals like that. We seem to be giving them away. And I mean, half our problem is we can't defend. I think we've got the second worst defence in the championship. And, unfortunately, the chickens are coming home to roost now, Put it this way. Going into the Queen's Park Rangers game on Saturday, I'm going to London to see that. I expect us to be in the bottom 3. And that pressure, that brings its own pressure, Simon, I'm expecting Derby County to absolutely trounce Preston North End on Wednesday. I don't think there'll be much. I think they've got a few injury problems. It's after the Lord's May show. They just got dumped out of the FA Cup. We all know what that feels like. Quite, deflating for them. Good luck to Preston, proud club. But I don't expect anything less than a Derby County win in front of a packed house at Pride Park, which is what it's going to be.
Well, yeah, and then Derby looked dead and buried, didn't they? About a month ago, they won 3 on the bounce, and it does show that if you can get those results, it does. A couple of results in a row, and it looks very different. There's Oxford, and up until before Saturday, Stoke looked like they were getting dragged in, but Oxford look on a bit of a free fall, which maybe it feels at the moment like Cardiff may squeeze themselves safe, but probably more so through the form of other teams rather than an uptick in Cardiff's form. It was interesting Saturday, Tony, that the first half I thought Cardiff were excellent, but at this level you do pay for missed chances. We didn't take our chances. We only went in 1 up, and then it became a tale of 2 managers, where the Sheffield Wednesday manager has given his team a bit of a rocket, brought on 3 subs, including an additional midfielder, and Cardiff never addressed that, which left Barry Bannon then to run the game in the second half. And Cardiff never addressed it. They never tactically adjusted to what those changes were. And it became, like I say, a tale of 2 managers.
The changes were too late, Simon. I mean, that was the problem you had there was fair play to Danny Rowell. He made the changes he had to at half time, put 3 good players on. We had a very, very strong bench. We've always got a strong bench, right? Now, the management team at Cardiff City, I mean, they should have seen what was going on in the sense that the goal didn't happen straight away, did it?
No,
For the first few minutes, you could see that they'd gained ascendancy and so forth. That was the time to make the change, not when they'd equalised. And then when they equalised, they only brought Alwyn Al-Ghazi on, which wasn't required. What we needed to do at that point was to strengthen the centre midfield. We didn't do that, and Bannon then he had the run of the show. I mean, you've got to stop Bannon. He's their playmaker, always has been. Good player, very good player. But what you needed was somebody to step on his toes and stop him playing. A bit like what Leon Britton used to do at Swansea. He directs the play, you know. Good player, Leon. But that's the sort of thing that you needed to do. You know, he's the playmaker, if you like, and we didn't do that. And there was ample opportunity. They were dithering on the touchline, making a change, and then obviously Sheffield Wednesday got the goal, and they actually could have gone on and won it. It was ridiculous, you know. So I would say this: I think we have got the players. The only thing that gives me hope that we will avoid relegation is the quality of the player we've got. I have, with the exception of Darren Pearce, who did a reasonably good job of the 21s. I have no confidence in that management team whatsoever. I've got no. Darren's a different ball game. He's a seasoned pro, good playing record, and he did a good job for the 21s. And he did. I don't care what anybody says. The batch that has come through now has come under his watch. His and the other gentleman he's working with there. You know, so he has to take some credit for that. As far as the others are concerned, then I have no confidence in them whatsoever. And bringing on Al-Ghazi, this was all premeditated. He must have thought about that. I'll bring him on after an hour. Alwyn Al-Ghazi is a good player, well, was a good player, right? What I will say is that change wasn't necessary at that time. What we needed to do at that time was to change centre midfield, and he didn't do it. So that frightens me. That frightens me, and it frightens
that was a change which I think everyone could see.
Sorry, say again.
That was a change that everyone could see. They brought on Shea Charles, it was. So they had an extra man in the midfield, whereas in the first half, Kean Ashford had done a good job on Barry Bannon, but they didn't have the numerical advantage at that point. And what's frustrating about it, for me at least, was it's not like we didn't have options for the middle of the park on the bench. You had Ruben Caldwell, who does a very good job defensively as well as creatively. You had Alex Robertson, who was one of our better players.
Well, they were the two people they should have come on. Alex Robertson and Ruben Caldwell. They were the two that should have come on. What then should have happened was should have brought off the loanee from Leicester off, who seems to flatter to deceive, I have to say. Lovely feet. But I'm not sure about him, his end product, okay?
Young and
I would have then switched Ashford to the wing.
Yes.
That would have been the move, I think. I'm taking the Leicester boy off. I think in time, again, he'd become a good player. But to pitch this youngster, 19-year-old, into a relegation fight at the moment, I'm not sure about that. You know, so I have to question that as well. But he was the one who brought him in. Rhys was the one who brought him in. You know, it's on the basis of all I knew him in the England setup. You know, so his own reputation is on the line because he almost forcing himself now into playing this bloke. You know, I mean, maybe Rhys isn't a bad coach, but you see what he's lacked is somebody of like Tony Pulis or Mowbray or somebody like that sitting on his shoulder, which is what he needed. He needed an older mentor because he's not, I know he's, 45, but he's inexperienced at this level, you know, and he needed a mentor to sit on his shoulder and say, look, this is what we need to do. What do you think? He hasn't got that. He hasn't got a Lenny Lawrence, has he? And that's what was required, you see. But what can you expect? You know, there's no, apart from Mehmet, there's no football nous really on that board. And not being disrespectful to Stephen Borley. Steve Borley is a good director and a loyal director to the club, you know. But there's nobody with football nous, is there? And that's what concerns me, you know. It's going to hurt. Relegation's going to hurt. And my concern is for the kids because we've got such a good lot of kids coming through. And the other thing that concerns me is we've had 3 or 4 really poor seasons, and we're in danger now of losing a generation of supporters who are getting used to dining on poor performances, particularly at the Cardiff City Stadium. I mean, it's become like a fairground, not mind but a fortress.
Yeah,
I've got no confidence
problem,
in getting 3 points at Cardiff City Stadium because the record shows that we're no good there. We seem to be a better counter-attack inside.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is both me and you have lived through a few decades of supporting Cardiff and following Cardiff. Once you go on these bad runs, it is difficult, like long term, it is difficult to recover those generation of fans because, yes, you'll have the ones who go with their parents and the kids, but
Well,
it's
the
the
relegation doesn't happen
the
overnight,
teenagers.
Simon, generally. I mean, if you actually look back over the years, and I was telling a friend of mine this morning who rang me up, another supporter, I said, if you actually go way back to the 1970-71 side with when we sold Tosh, in the November, but we nearly went up that year. But ironically, we lost home to Watford 1-0. Charlie Wood scored, and that took our ascendancy away. In other words, we then had to go to Sheffield United and avoid defeat. We got hammered 5-1. But from that pinnacle, the following season, 71-72, we struggled. 72-73 was a struggle. We stayed up that year. We sent Willie Anderson from Aston Villa, 60 grand. Now, if he'd come earlier, I think that would have been the push we needed to go up. Schooler wanted a winger. The board wouldn't give him the money because I know we tried to sign Alan Woodward from Sheffield United as well. But the point is, that year we beat Huddersfield to stay up. That was 72-73. Beat them 4-1. Andy McCulloch got a hat-trick at Ninian Park. I was at the game, right? The following year, 73-74, this was all a gradual demise. We stayed up on the last game of the season when Tony Villas equalised. And that was down to between us and Crystal Palace. The last game of the season, 1-1. We relegated them. We stayed up. Following year, we went down. So it's been a gradual demise. And this is what you've seen at Cardiff over the last few years. It's not something that's happened overnight. Reading had points deduction. Birmingham City had points deduction. That probably what saved us. So we've had enough warnings. If we go down, it's our own fault. Nobody else's fault. Our fault. And the board have to take responsibility for that. And the owner does. So, and I'm not knocking Vincent Tan. If you actually look, he's put a lot of money into that club over many, many years. The only thing I think he can be critical about is he hasn't appointed a proper football person. And that's where, and he's trusted people in football, and maybe he shouldn't have trusted. Maybe that's my opinion. But as an owner, apart from the red shirts nonsense, which it was, and he admitted to that mistake. And, he's an active owner. He does care. But, he's going to be, by appointing Rizza, and it's not just on Rizza, but if we do go down, he's the one that loses the most money. But Mehmet his credibility is at stake here because he's persuaded people to come in and put money into that club. It's not all his own 30-odd million. I don't believe it. I believe that he's persuaded people. So you can imagine the position Mehmet Dalman's in. Can't be comfortable, can it, Simon?
No.
Chu is an employee. Let's be fair. He's an employee. So I would argue that he's probably Vincent's servant. He's his eyes and ears, if you like. But it's a role. I'm not being critical. It's a role. But I'm looking at the people that are going to lose the most money here, which is Mehmet Dalman's credibility, which is terrible because he's got an impeccable reputation in the city. And Vincent, of course, as an owner. And us as supporters, to lose some of those youngsters, it's going to be soul destroying. It's no greater feeling, is it, to see your own guys come through the academy and in that first team. How good is that? How good is that? Brilliant.
And when you've got a group of them now coming through where you're thinking, Jesus, 5 or 6 of these could go on and play first team football, like really supremely talented guys who've been nurtured and prepared by people like Darren Pearce and Gavin Chesterfield. the thought of getting relegated is bad enough, but the thought of getting relegated and then selling off all these young stars or these young potential stars at cheap is soul destroying. But ultimately, like you mentioned about the financial side of it, I saw a few people earlier in the season sort of saying, oh, you know, maybe a little tour of League One will be fun, be like the old days. And I was like, financially going down is disastrous for Cardiff City, absolutely disastrous. And look,
it's going to be a disaster because, like, you've got Robinson who just signed a contract now. He's not on peanuts, so he'll definitely go. You know, he won't want to play in League One. And anyway, I don't think the club could be able to afford him. Then Callum O'Dowda wouldn't have thought to come on peanuts. He's got another. They've given him a 3-year deal, a 2-year extension on top of this season. So he's not going to want to stay. I wouldn't have thought. You know. And then there are others, but those are seasoned professionals. There's going to be a mass exodus of players, from the club anyway, whether we stay up or whether we go down, and you know who they're going to be. Most of those players who are out of contract now, the ones that haven't agreed terms, will all be gone. I think there's an argument for Ramsey, and I'm going to get hammered for saying it. There's an argument for keeping Ramsey on, and I don't think for 1 minute he's on the money that people are saying.
No, he's not. He's not.
No, there's an argument for him because I actually think he contributes a lot more to the club than just the playing side, But most of the others that are left, whose deals run out, I'd let them all go now.
Yeah, I'm on record as saying that if Cardiff stay up, they have a very unique opportunity to evolve the squad without having to depend on selling 5 or 6 players to do it.
100%. Paul Abandonado once said it was an opportunity.
Of course it is.
And he's right. He's right. Yeah. It was a real opportunity to reshape the squad without having to pay contracts up. With the exception of Wintle, probably, who's at Millwall. I mean, he'll be back. He tends to divide opinion around Wintle. I think he's a solid player. But we've got a lot of players like him.
Tone, I'll tell you what, to finish off, let's finish off on something positive.
Yeah.
Which players have impressed you this year, perhaps who you didn't expect to sort of step up, or who has impressed you this year?
Well, it's nice to see Isaac Davis back because I think we've got a player there. He's had such bad luck with injuries, but I mean, he's got tremendous burst of pace with him. There's a lot of Craig Bellamy about him. Not only does he wear the 39 on his back, there is a lot of Bellamy with him. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'd like to see a bit more belligerence with him, like Craig had. And because Craig's an exciting player. He's worth paying the entrance fee to see him. And always has been since he was 17. I've known the kid a long time. I didn't always get on with him. He sometimes agreed with some of the stuff. Fair play. But you have to say, and if you had him on, he will remember a conversation I had with him in Coventry when he first went there. I said, "You're going to make a player. You're going to make a coach and manager one day." And he laughed at me, but I was convinced he would be because I think that he was such a student of the game. But belligerence in the play, a little bit of that with Davis. I think we've got a player there, to be honest with you. You also have to say the striker they've signed from abroad. Let's talk about him because I think he's going to be a victim if we go down. They'll sell him. Yeah. But I think my view is you've got a 20 goal a season striker there in the Championship who could, and in fairness to Rizza, it was through his influence that was brought in. So you've got to acknowledge that. So he's been fine. I think that O'Dowda, when called upon, when you consider that he's not a natural left back, he really has shown his worth in the side. I like the boy Mansworth from Ajax. I'm hoping we can try and have a sign of him. I think he's a good player. I also like Fish. I think given time, I think Fish is a good player. So, and I've been saying for a long time that Joel Caldwell, I think, will be the better of the 2 Caldwell brothers. And I think Ruben's a good player. He's a different type of player to his brother, but I think it's very exciting, isn't it, to have two brothers coming through at the same time. So I'm quite sort of Kean Ashford, I like. I still think we've seen the best of him. Not yet. But I think he's going to make a play as well. And I like the boy, Mampacchio, the fullback, the black fullback.
Very good.
Yeah. I like him. I think we've got a player there. And also, maybe Louis Giles from Ely in Cardiff. Nice to have a local boy come through. Stylish left back. Lovely player. Wonderful left foot. So he must have a chance as well. So we have got some bright sparks through the side. I'm still scratching my head and thinking, why we're in the position we're in. It's frustrating, isn't it?
The question on everyone's lips, Tony, isn't it? Is that how are we?
Well, it's a question everybody wants to know. Do I, if you're going to ask me, do I think we'll stay up? I say, yes, I will. I do think we will stay up. Yeah. But it could get very close. And I think that we're going to have to win. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, I think we're going to have to win 2 away matches because I don't trust our home form. I think we're capable of going to Queen's Park Rangers on Saturday and winning the game. I think we're capable of that.
Absolutely.
And I definitely think we're capable of getting something from Preston North End week Tuesday or week today, of course. Yes, I think we can get 4 points in the next 2 away matches and then sets up the Stoke game. And we're better than Stoke. Trust me, we're better than them. I've seen the 2 matches up at Stoke this year, and we outplayed them in most of the games, and we're better than them. Trust me on that. So you're right. We could produce 3 wins because you just don't know with this squad. They're one of the most difficult sides to bet on, Cardiff, because you don't know what Cardiff City's going to turn up. But Tony, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I think they'll stay up.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Tony, I've got to leave it there, but I really appreciate
Thank you.
Time. Thank you so much. And hopefully next time we talk, Cardiff City will be safe from relegation.
No problem. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Great to see you.
Cymru Sport.
A massive thank you to Tony for joining me. Really interesting kind of look into it because he looks at it from both sides. He is a lifelong Cardiff City fan since he was a kid, but also has worked within the media at the top of the media game, worked within around the club, worked in and around Wales. So has a unique insight into that side of things as well. So it's really interesting to hear Tony's thoughts. And again, thank you so much for him for joining me. Earlier today, I asked Cardiff City World contributor and, of course, Cardiff City fan and creator, owner of the Premier Bluebirds Facebook group, as well as running the Cardiff City Development fan account, Martin Davis. I put this question to Martin. For some people, they consider this season to be Joel Bagan and Kean Ashford's breakout season in regard to first-team football. What have you made of their overall performances in a difficult season? And also, are you encouraged by the younger players within the squad, with several under-25s already established in the first team? And, of course, not forgetting the exciting prospects in the development squads.
Hi guys, Martin Davis here from Premier Bluebirds and Active Development. Been asked by Cy to comment about Joel and Kean. Pretty difficult for me to say Kean's breakout season. I've been watching the lad since he was about 15 years of age for Wales under 15. So first and foremost, Joel. For me, it started pre-season with Joel. I thought he was excellent pre-season. He showed really well in those games. Always obviously always a difficult one to judge pre-season, but he slotted in as a centre back all through pre-season, and I thought, oh wow, this is really a good role for him. Unfortunately, when the season itself started, for some reason, Bullet never used him whatsoever. But as the season's progressed, obviously he's slotted in. I think he's he's developed from a physical viewpoint, and his distribution has always been good. But I just think it's his the physicality he now has, and also being left-footed, we have a dearth of left-footed centre backs, and he, for me, is a definite starter. He's the only natural left-footed centre back we have. Um, I know Darlin can play on the left, and Fish can play on the left, but they are, they're naturally right-footed. So Bacon for me is a must starter, and he warrants his place as well. Is the use of the ball, and I think as a centre back, he can just read the game well, and he's able to ping diagonal balls. So yeah, I think Joel would be one of the prime candidates as most improved player. So and it's really good to see. Kean is a bit of a tough one for me to be commented on Kean, because I've known the lad for a long time. I know his mum and his dad and everything. So I'm gonna come across as I don't know, maybe slightly biased and maybe whatever. Um, but I've been watching the lad, as I say, since he was about 14 or 15. So for me to say it's his breakout season is, I feel like I've been watching him for years. But obviously the masses, you guys have only been watching him for the last season or two. Um, what I would say was, yesterday when Kean was selected to play in the 10 role at first team level, that is the role for someone like myself who've been watching him for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. That is the role he played at all through nearly every game for club was as a 10. Now, as a further Wales age groups, he did play maybe more wide forward more often than not. But I've always seen Kean as a 10. He's naturally two-footed. His balance, his composure on the ball, everything. For me, he's always been a natural 10, and I've been say, saying something similar for a long time. But obviously, when it comes to first team football, you got to have that extra physicality and whatnot. So it was always whether he could adapt that at first team level. But the lad is a lovely player to watch. And for me, yeah, 10 is his ideal role, but he just, he's a local boy, and he would play as fullback. He just wants to be like Isaac, and a lot of the lads coming through. He would play in any position, but I do see him as a 10, and it was great. I felt yesterday, the longer the game was going on, he just come more and more into it. I suppose the more defensive aspect of the game is something he'll have to adapt as he goes along. But certainly going forward, and like if we're on the counter attack, I think everyone saw yesterday how he uses his body. His balance is just something else. And for me, he's always got I appreciate his horses for courses, and in a relegation fight, this, that, and the other, you can make when selecting a side is pros and cons, different positions. But for me, I'm having Keane in my starting lineup anywhere, basically, because I just rate the lad. So yeah, a breakout season for lots of our lads' side, but I'm not sure I'm going with Keane as a breakout season, because it feels like I've been watching the lad for a long time.
Big thank you to Martin, as always, for his contribution to the channel. And again, a lifelong Cardiff City fan. Been there for the good times and the bad. But it's nice to have a bit of positivity because, there's a lot of negativity, a lot of stress around at the moment. So it's nice to hear some positive outlook on the young players. With no further ado, though, let's be joined by our next guest. And it's someone I've tried to get on for a while. Really, really excited that we've been able to match up our schedules somewhat. And I'm delighted to be joined by Wales Online's head Cardiff City football correspondent, Mr. Glen Williams. Welcome, Glen. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? It's just trying to work out the schedules and all that sort of thing. But no, delighted to have you on. And if only there was something to talk about with Cardiff, because it's such a boring club to cover. There's never anything going on. It's been a season, mate. It's been a season. I look at the table and I look at that squad and I'm still very puzzled by how we seem to be in a relegation battle, because I really stand by this, what I said at the start of the season. I feel like it's a group that certainly now should be way up the table. I think if we'd had this, the likes of Salic and Alves and Mansverk from the start of the season, I think it could have been a different story. But where do you see where it's kind of gone wrong for Cardiff this year?
Yeah, the $1 million question there. You say this year, but I don't think it's a question just about this year, is it? It's a sort of perennial slide over a number of years, I suppose. I mean, this is my 6th season covering the club, and they finished a lower league position every year I've covered the club, barring last year. So it's probably a combination of things, a succession of things over a number of seasons rather than just this season. But I think you're right in that you look at the squads around Cardiff, certainly, and man for man on paper, I don't know how many squads you'd change Cardiff's squad for. Even Luton are probably the closest ones, and they're 2 spots below Cardiff at the minute. But you put Cardiff's squad up against any sort of mid-table squad, even, take Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend, for example. How many players would you have swapped in Sheffield Wednesday's starting team? Not many, I would suggest. So there's something wrong other than just the players, isn't there? I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing to say. What that is, I think, is the golden question, and what people can't quite put their finger on at the minute. I think I saw a stat about them losing 22 points from winning positions over the weekend. That's tactical deficiencies. Mentality, as Omar pointed out at the weekend, but I saw he got pilloried for saying that. But I think he's probably spot on. I think recruitment in the summer was disappointing. I think that there was a platform, even though the numbers belied the league position last year. I think there was at least some sort of platform to build on last season, and I just don't think they did it. They looked like they were going to explode in the market at some point, and they just never happened. They just fizzled out, and I was worried towards the end of the summer window that they just didn't quite have enough. They started well with sort of Callum Chambers and Chris Willock, which everyone was excited by. I thought, free agents, good to get them in early. Then after that, it just didn't get the requisite quality in, I don't think. And I did fear for them after that. In contrast to that, I actually did quite like what they did in January. The little bits of business that they did, I thought were pretty good. I thought there was a more cohesive approach to their transfer window, but whether that's too little, too late is, we'll see in 7 games' time, I suppose.
Yeah, the summer window's fascinating, really, because I thought it started off really well and really encouraging. Like you mentioned, like Chambers, Willock. I thought Alex Robertson was an excellent signing. He's young, highly rated. It was just that sort of final sort of piece in the jigsaw. We've all known that Cardiff have probably lacked an out-and-out goal-scoring striker probably since Kiefer Moore, really. And it never felt like Kanga was that guy. And I don't want to turn it into like a big thing of sort of slating Wilfred Kanga, because ultimately it's difficult to come into the Championship from a different league which you haven't played. It's physical, it's intense, and it's such a difficult league to adapt to. And I think you see that with Jesper Dahlund. He's been good, he's been all right. He's struggled in some games. It's going to take time for him to settle. And for a striker, if you don't get that early goal in the first game or two, I think it becomes very difficult then, because you're getting battered about and you maybe have one or two chances a game. And I think particularly in those first 6 games under Errol Bullitt, we didn't create a lot of chances, despite what he would say in press conferences and things like that. And I think that was a bit of a disconnect there. That's when the fans kind of became quite frustrated, where you'd have things like he'd be saying, we created a lot of chances today, but we haven't taken them. And fans had watched the game and they were kind of like, we didn't really create anything. So that it's just been, I do feel sorry for Omar Rees, because I feel like he was kind of chucked in, given the job to the summer, but wasn't really given the kind of requisite support around him, maybe for someone who's as experienced at this level. And it's such a big job, Cardiff is. There's so much scrutiny and off the field issues and things like that it's very difficult to just focus on being the manager of the football club. What do you think of Omar Rees, the job he's done since October?
Yeah, I mean, a big question, because a lot has happened since October. They've been really streaky in that they'll go through big winless runs, and then they'll be unbeaten for 6 or 7 or 8 games, and then you're like, okay, are they onto something? And then that just fizzles away, which is tough. What I really like him, and he's really personable, just on a human level. He's had to deal with a lot. His dad died, which really, really hit him, and I don't think people can underestimate just how close they were and how much of a toll that took on him. And they were in the middle of a unbeaten run during that period as well, which is testament to him. What I think is he's a good coach, and been at good clubs, been in the English FA setup, but learning on the job at Cardiff is probably one of the hardest clubs you can do that, because, like you said, the expectation is huge. From above, from the fans, everywhere. But I spoke to a former Cardiff City player a couple of weeks ago, actually, and Cardiff is one of those clubs where if you employ a head coach, which I would say Omar is, he's a head coach rather than a manager type figure. You have to have somebody sitting above him, because you have to manage, all the hysteria from above. Whereas if you have somebody who is a manager, which generally does well at Cardiff, somebody like Dave Jones and Malky Mackay and Neil Warnock. I know a lot inside the club had high hopes for Mick McCarthy, especially early on in his reign, because they saw him in that sort of ilk as well. Then they can handle the big things and the people and the personalities around them. Somebody like a head coach, I just think, struggles at Cardiff. You see it recently, Mark Hudson, Steve Morrison. It's more, you have to have more than just being good on the training ground Monday to Friday, and that's where the difficulty is. It'll take a big, like a silver bullet of a coach, really, to make that a success at Cardiff, I would think.
Yeah, it's very difficult, because I feel that so much is expected of that role at Cardiff by the club, not just managing the team, the media, all of the responsibilities which come with the job, but it also feels like they have a big say in the transfers with the transfer committee and all these other roles, whereby you look around the country and indeed, the world, really, there isn't many football clubs now which haven't got a director of football or a technical director or some sort of football structure above the manager, which is kind of filled with a mix of, football business type people, and then also some people with football knowledge for, transfers, analysis, scanning, scouting, whatever it may be. They've got that kind of real football knowledge and career ingrained in them. And I do think there's a lack of that at the football club. And I do think it's difficult to ignore. And I think that hasn't helped him, because you'd like to think if he'd had maybe, I know a lot of people have said, oh, he should have had an experienced assistant manager, but I don't necessarily think you need it doesn't have to be an experienced assistant manager or coach. I just felt that he needed somebody within the structure of the club around him who had that experience to maybe take a bit of the pressure off and for him to bounce ideas off. But I guess my question is, it's almost like a question which has been beaten to death in some ways, but do you think the lack of footballing structure between the board and the managerial team or the backroom staff, do you think that hurts the club, and is that contributed to where we find ourselves over the last few seasons?
Well, in my opinion, 100%. And don't get me wrong, you can get director of sport appointments wrong as well. Swansea this season, that they've had a nightmare with theirs, haven't they? So it's not, that isn't a silver bullet either. Just, we've appointed director of football now, so everything's fine. You got to get the right person in to do that as well. But I think where it hurts Cardiff the most is the sort of haphazard approach to succession planning. So young coach, first job, go and do your best. We think you can be the guy. Oh, wait, you're not the guy. Oh, firefight. Let's get somebody in who's been there, done it before. Oh, win at all costs. Whatever the succession plan was, that doesn't matter anymore. You just need to win the next 15 games. It's just hectic. Is that? And don't get me wrong, you might have to do that anyway with the director of football, right? But I feel like there'll be less chance, and there'll be a short list of a similar sort of name, similar sort of philosophy of succession planning for managers every time manager does have to get sacked. And they do have to get sacked because that's the nature of the game. But I feel like if Swansea, for example, sack their manager, you kind of know the next one that's going to come in, what sort of football they're going to play, how they want a club to look and run. It makes it easier then for the things you were talking about, like transfers, like scouting. Just all the stuff just becomes easier rather than, we were talking earlier about transfers. A lot of the transfers in the summer were conducted by Errol Bullitt and the former lead scout, Andrei Fedchenko. Both of them have left now, right? So now we're back at square one. I quite like the way they went about it in January. I feel like there was more cohesion with Omar, the board, Paddy Du Bois, the head of recruitment. I feel like there was more of a plan in place for what they wanted. And I feel like the 3 players they signed in January were good, and that does bode well for the future if this current regime carries on. But that's where it doesn't just hurt one side. It doesn't just hurt the game on a Saturday. It hurts a lot of different aspects of the club.
Of course. And I guess I agree with you completely regarding January, and it seemed a lot more cohesive. But the problem then repeats itself, doesn't it? Because if they don't stick with Omar, Rhys, regardless of whether we go up or down or this side of it, if they don't stick with Omar in the summer, you're kind of back to square one again. I know, there's a couple of loans in there, but in terms of that cohesiveness, you've kind of lost it again, because someone else will come in and they might want to do things a certain way, or they'll play a certain way. And then, it's a constant reset. So I guess it is frustrating to see, but it's one of those things where Cardiff is like definitely it's a sleeping giant. Everything's in place for the club to move forward. You've got the training ground. You've got this big crop of young players coming through. But it's getting those pieces and investing the money in the right places to then move those pieces forward. Where you see it now, and you would have seen the most recent game Saturday, the recent form before the international break. Is there a worry from within the club that this could be the year where they don't miss the trapdoors, so to speak?
Yeah, they would be very obtuse not to be worried. I think it's not even in their own hands anymore, is it? I mean, if Derby win tomorrow night, Cardiff are in the relegation zone and everyone's got 7 games left. So, yeah, there's a worry. But they've only got themselves to blame. It's not like a warning. So this isn't I said right at the top that this isn't just a one-off season, is it? I mean, could have got relegated 2 seasons ago if it wasn't for points deductions. The year before, Steve Morrison came in and did a really good job, I thought, to steer them away from the bottom 3. Just been a perennial slide, and not much has changed. The only person that seems to change is the manager. Nothing else seems to change. They don't try anything new. They don't move with the times. it's what I find quite interesting actually is that there's like an optimism from everyone, isn't there, at the start of every season. A lot of people, we've signed X player, Y player, we could push for the playoffs this season, and they just completely neglect what other clubs are doing. And other clubs are doing more; they're doing better stuff. So it's not just contingent on what Cardiff do. They've got to keep up with the Joneses, at some stage, and they've got to do what other clubs are doing as well, and the innovation the other clubs are showing, and the strategies and systems that other clubs are putting into place. I just don't think Cardiff keep up with other clubs that well, and just hope that their reputation and their pull and the size of the city to get them out of another firefight. And I pray to God for the fans that they do get themselves out this season, but I am really worried.
Yeah, I'm very. It's strange. It's strange for me because the start of this season, would you believe that in my 30 plus, won't give away my age, but 30 plus years of supporting the club, this season was the most optimistic I've ever been, including the season, when we had Dave Jones and we were flying, we had Bothroyd and Bellamy and I was so optimistic this season because I felt like we had such a good mix of youth and experience. But obviously a lot of that was contingent on the striker we signed being a striker which would score. So look, there's that. But for it to go so wrong, and I still look at the squad and I still look at the players and I'm so puzzled by it. But there's definitely been a disconnect with what we've got on the books and what we see on the pitch. And I think ultimately, and this is my opinion, but I do think I said it when Omar Rhys was appointed till the summer, that I felt like he was being set up to fail and almost set up to take the blame if the worst did happen. And, some people don't like that opinion, but I just feel like if you really, really wanted him to do the job that he's clearly capable of doing, he's clearly got something about him from a coaching point of view. I think you could see that. You saw it again Saturday, the way he set up with a solid base and really young, pacey attackers. He has a blueprint of the sort of football he wants to play. Where I would argue that he sometimes is learning on the job is things like substitutions or tactical tweaks in game, whether they go a bit early or a bit late. And that's where you need an experienced head. So my argument is always that the club probably should have put something in place when they knew he was going to be staying there till the summer. It's tricky because I think Omar Rhys is a lovely guy, and I think the way he's dealt with it all, he's dealt with it like a true professional and a real gentleman. And even with the South Wales derby, with his father passing away, what was it, 2 days before? I think he was I believe he was at training when his father actually passed away, and he still came to the game. Like a lot of people, and without any criticism of those people, a lot of people wouldn't have come to the game on the Saturday, and he did, and that was one of the better performances this year. Where do you think Cardiff get their points from this year in these next 7 games? Where could you see them picking up points? Championship's strange, isn't it? Because we could probably lose to a QPR or a Preston and then go and beat West Brom or something. It's odd.
Yeah. Just picking up on one thing you said about you being so optimistic at the start of this season. I do feel like a lot of that and a lot of fans I spoke to was purely down to the fact that there had been a manager in place for a season and the stability that it brought. I wrote before Errol got his new contract that, he has his flaws and he wasn't perfect, but on weight of probability, the fact that he's brought stability probably makes him the best bet for this season. I was in the balance. I wasn't. Either way, it could have gone, and I could have saw the justification for handling the job and not handling the job. But I just thought on the weight of balance, tilting in the favour of stability, because I just thought there'd been such a dearth of stability at this club for so long. I think he was the first manager to complete the season in something like 6 seasons since 5 seasons since Warnock.
That's a crazy stat, isn't it? Do you know what sold it for me, Glenn? Just sorry on that bullet thing, just very quickly. Is the thing which sold it for me was the kind of promises that, yes, I know the football hasn't been great last year, but we needed to sort of stabilise. But now I'm going to get my players in and we're going to play a much more sort of progressive style. And in pre-season, they did. They played a really high pressing style and sort of almost 5 across the front at times. But by half time in the first game, that had gone. And I think that's where myself and a lot of fans then you feel a bit not let down. I think it's probably the wrong word, but
deflated.
You were kind of banking on that progression, which never came, I guess. Sorry to interrupt.
Everyone's got a plan until they punched in the face, I think is the saying,
yeah, that's it.
In terms of points, I wouldn't want to go into the last 2 games needing anything. You know what, West Brom and Norwich, I think just if you need to go into those 2 games needing 3 or 4 points, I think it's panic stations. You know, so I think the next 5 games are you need to pick up probably 3 wins maybe. But it's just it's funny because in games, you know, at halftime on Saturday, I was just like they went out the tunnel at halftime, and everyone in the press box is just like, this is the best I've seen him play all season, best I've seen him play all season. It might be me being, because I've covered this club for 6 seasons and it's been bad for 6 seasons, right? But I just turned and I went 1-1. I just knew it. I said 1-1 to the BBC correspondent next week. So I just knew it. I was like, there's no way they can sustain this. Wednesday will come out playing completely different football than Cardiff owners just because I've seen this movie before. But I just hope, QPR is a big opportunity, I think, on Saturday. Stoke and Oxford are just massive. It's funny because the Hull game at home that Cardiff won, it just felt like euphoria for Cardiff fans, and they just felt like, oh right, we've done it. This is where we turn around now. And then the Luton defeat felt like 6 defeats in one. It was that bad. So these games, especially against Stoke and Oxford, I feel are huge, and they're 6 pointers, and because you take 3 points off Stoke, for example, and add 3 to your own tally, and it's a completely different picture. But it's getting squeaky now.
It is getting very, very tight. I think there's winnable games in there, but ultimately the Championship, as I said, is so strange. You can go and lose to Luton, beat Blackburn the following game, but I spoke to someone at the club, and they were like, they effectively said, everyone puts so much pressure on these individual games, but actually, if you pick up a couple of wins elsewhere, it's not, it doesn't matter as much. But I'm in the kind of boat, and the same boat, which what you just said. It's not just winning. If you beat Stoke, you drag them back into it. You beat Oxford, you continue their kind of free fall. QPR now have been dragged back into it. So if we were to beat QPR Saturday, it's not just the 3 points for us. It brings QPR right back into it. And I think we kind of need as many teams in there as possible fighting for survival, because we don't seem to be able to find the consistency for whatever reason in performances.
And I think that the good thing, the positive thing heading into this little period now is that for the first time in a few seasons, Cardiff have got like match winners, like proper. I think Salick is a match winner. I didn't really know what to expect from Isaac Davis. I got to be completely honest with you, because I hadn't seen him play properly in a long time. I think his goal on Saturday was his first home goal for like 2.5 years or something, wasn't it? Something mad. I think he is looking really good. I really like Will Alves'. His end product probably needs to improve, but I really like what he brings. Kean Ashford is streaky as well. He could go on a little streak now, which would be great. I thought he was excellent on Saturday, by the way. Callum Robinson, Cardiff finally got a goal scorer who scores 12 goals a season. How long since we've said that? Kiefer Moore was the last person to do that, I think. So they have got match winners. They just need to sort their defence out, and whether there's enough time to sort that defence out with so little time remaining in the season is probably the big question, because I think this team has got goals in it. It's just stopping them now, which we weren't saying last season. We were saying the complete opposite.
Yeah, the defensive lapses in concentration have been a theme of the season, haven't they? And every time we seem to sort one part of like the right-hand side or, whatever it may be, something else rears its head. And it's interesting. I thought Will Fish and Joel Bagan on Saturday, individually, I thought they were excellent. I thought they were really good. Will Fish, you could argue, makes one mistake where he's a bit flat-footed for the goal. But I think both of them have been very good at centre back, and I didn't expect them to be the pairing. I got to be honest. I expected Gutas to come in and probably Fish drop out, and I was pleased. I thought he got his 11 completely right. Maybe I still think Alex Robertson and Ruben. I was a little bit disappointed, to see Ruben get 5 minutes and Alex Robertson only get. Well, he didn't get anything in the end, did he? So that's a little bit disappointing. But I don't know if they're managing Alex's fitness and stuff like that because he's got a long-standing sort of injury.
I think they kind of had to leave Ruben out because I think they went for all-out pace around Salek, and for all of Ruben's positive traits, which I've been a big advocate for a number of years. He will slow that area of the pitch down, and you could see that by picking those 3 speedsters in and around Salek. I think it quickened up the attack to no end. And I think maybe Ruben could learn a bit from that, or even drop into more of an 8 role moving forward. Because I feel like if pace is the way to go, pace around a big striker like Salek, I think is the way to go. So whether Ruben can drop into a sort of 8 with a sitter alongside him. If you did want to shoehorn him into a team, I still probably think he does make Cardiff's best 11. But yeah, in terms of the tactics, you had to pick those 3, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I was more referring to the kind of second half really with Ruben, where I felt as soon as Sheffield Wednesday brought on an extra midfielder, I thought the answer was pretty clear that we needed to put either Ruben or Alex Robertson in the sort of where Keane was, move Keane out wide. So you've still got the pace. Because both of them, either Ruben or Alex Robertson, they both do a really good job at pinching the ball in the press. And I felt like if they'd been on Barry Bannon, it would have just negated that a little bit. But it's easy to say, isn't it? When you're not on the touchline and the pressure's on and all these different other aspects. Glenn, let's finish off with a very simple question. In your opinion, do Cardiff City stay up this year?
I really want them to, just because it's the club I cover. I'd love to cover Championship football next year. The fans deserve a Championship club, but I'm worried is my answer.
Yeah, I'm the same. I just think I say it all the time when I'm doing my Premier League show with Rhodri, is if teams that flirt with relegation season after season after season and don't address the problems, whatever they may be, eventually go down. And I just hope that Cardiff have one more chance to address the problems by staying up this year. But I'm the same as you can't not be worried. My one hope is that the quality of players in the squad might be enough. Like you just mentioned, there is match winners in there. So if we can have a solid base, and I thought that was interesting that he set up with a very solid base and then a very sort of young, pacey attack. I think that's probably the blueprint. We shall see, I guess.
Yeah, I did ask him that on Saturday if it's the blueprint going forward, and he said, "I know this is always what I've wanted to do since being here," but he hadn't had the sort of pace, so he hadn't had those 3. I don't think he's had those 3 players fit all at the same time, because I think Alves has been injured or been managing his minutes. Isaac, I don't think you want to throw him in and play 90 minutes all the time now, because he's had awful injury troubles. So I think that is probably how he wants to play, and it will cause problems. And if we're all being hypercritical, they should have been more than 1-0 ahead on Saturday, shouldn't they? And so hopefully they learn from that, and they get more comfortable. Because it's just always nail biters with Cardiff. That's the annoying thing. Like, how often do they blow teams out of the water and 3 or 4-0 ahead, feet up, everyone in the press box is easy going. Oh, this is an easy match report to write. It's never like that, So yeah, and also Cardiff's goal difference is dreadful as well. So they literally need to have
Leeds
more
game
points.
Could be Leeds game could be really consequential if it gets really tight. But hopefully it won't be that tight. Interestingly, actually, just circling back a little bit to Isaac Davis, I think I said a couple of weeks back is my one worry is because of the nature of his injury, the knee injury he had. I was concerned that he might lose a yard, of that explosive pace and that explosive movement, because there's such a big asset of his. And I thought on Saturday was one of the best performances he put in for Cardiff. I thought it was all around was excellent. He did really good in the press. He was winning the ball back. He was getting in behind. He was good on the ball. I just generally thought his whole game was really good. And I thought, right, if he can maintain that, there's a real player there.
Well, if he does feel like a new signing. I hate that phrase because it's like a cliche, but he does, because I remember before he left for Kortrijk, I remember my overarching feeling being, he quick, tidy, is he going to make it championship level? Yeah, he scored 12 goals for Kortrijk. Well done. That's obviously going to be positive for him. But so did Wilfred Kanga that season. You just never know. I've probably done him a disservice in my own head, because he's been much, much better than I remember him being, or whether he's just grown quite a lot on the pitch in the last 18 months. I'm not sure. But yeah, I've been really, really pleasantly surprised with him.
Yeah, there's definitely players there. It remains to be seen whether Cardiff can once again avoid the drop. Glenn, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed speaking to you this evening, and really genuinely.
Cheers, mate. No, you do a great job here. So thank you.
Cheers, thank you, mate.
You're listening to Cymru Sport.
Yeah, massive thank you to Glenn for joining me. Really, really enjoyable chat, and it was interesting to get his unique insights into Cardiff City's plight this season and where they may be going wrong, right. Omar Rees, a lot of thoughts there. But on Omar Rees, look, there's a lot of negativity, as we've already discussed. But I wanted to get someone's opinion who is quite pro Rees, is being quietly impressed with some of the things he's done. And that is the host of the 1927 podcast on Cardiff City World, incidentally, Rhys David Evans, otherwise known as RDE. Rhys, in your opinion, has Omar Rees shown enough to be considered for the job full-time? And if so, why?
So firstly, I think we've got to survive. That's the biggest thing for us right now. I think survival is massive. I think if we get relegated, it could end up becoming a big disaster. Players will be sold off on the cheap so the board can recoup as much money as they can before they're going to sell a club. We could end up League 2 something even worse. So first and foremost, survival's key. If we survive, I would like to see Rhys given a job. Maybe that's a 1-year rolling contract. Allow him some say, because I think we've clearly seen that he's had one transfer window, and the 3 players he wanted to bring in, he's brought in, and they've been good signings. So I think it'll be exciting to see what he could do given the opportunity to bring his own players in. There's 8 players, I think, left now, maybe at a contract in the summer, and 4 or 5 need to be gone ASAP. There's 1 or 2 on contracts for a bit longer that need to go. I think they've offered nothing. So I think he has to be allowed to get rid of certain players, bring in better players, because we can't keep blaming the manager season after season for the position we're in. When you look at the players, some of the players are still the same ones from previous regimes that were fighting relegation. We need better quality. We just desperately need better quality. I know people are going to say we need to bring in experienced manager, but we've had like some Mick McCarthy or a Bullet. Warnock blew a lot of money. But those managers, they've all kind of said the same thing. The board signed player X, the board signed player Y. I wanted player, A, B, and C, and the club said no, so they want to sign someone else for me. So I don't think it makes a difference if we get an experienced manager in. They won't be supported. They won't be back financially. It's just a shambles. So there's no point going for experience. Why not give it to a young manager who, let's be honest, when we do play like attacking football, like the first half against Sheffield Wednesday, it is exciting. It's some of the best attacking football we've seen since Dave Jones. Now, defensively, we are a shambles. There's no doubt about that. I see a lot of people trying to put the blame on a certain coach, a certain staff member, because they don't like him. I don't think that's fair. I think we are very short-staffed behind the scenes. I think we got, Tom Ramsey, Darren Purse, an interim goalkeeping coach, and Richard Shaw. Most clubs have 4 or 5 staff members work with the first team. That's before they got fitness coaches in, goalkeeping coaches in, set-piece coaches in. So I think if we give it to Rhys, he does need to be able to bring a lot more staff in, and he has to have a lot more say on what players come in and what players go. I also like to think, I think you can see there's something there with his style of play. You definitely can see that, and I think a lot of people like to see the club fail, so they criticise everything. They were criticising Bullet because he wasn't exciting enough. He was experienced. We got Rhys in now. He's not experienced. They're criticising him. I do think he does need an experienced number 2 to work alongside him. I think his game management needs to be worked on. I think we see it with the substitutions. Some of them we're all scratching our heads and asking why. Ruba for 5 minutes against Sheffield Wednesday was bizarre. Tana's come back from a big injury. Shouldn't have been on there. El Ghazi's been nowhere near it all season. How was he getting on ahead of like Ashford in certain games? So I think he does need someone to help him with that. But again, this is Rhys' first ever season as a full-time manager, especially the Championship. So it's going to take a time for him to learn this. However, one thing we don't have right now is time. But again, we just got to survive. And if we do, I like to think he's earned the right to have a go. I mean, I've seen some fans calling for the Stoke manager now, the former Coventry guy. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Mark Robbins. Look at the job he's done there. It's dreadful. I think they picked up 1 win against QPR. Other than that, they've been absolutely shocking. So again, experience doesn't mean anything. Mick McCarthy lost like 8 in a row with us. Played 5 centre-halves, 3 older midfielders, and we were getting pumped 4-0. At least under Rhys, we were playing attacking football, something the fans can get behind. I just think we're just desperate to survive, and if we do, I'd be excited to see what he can bring, as long as he's given the say, because we've got a lot of big earners at the club that need to go. And like I said, there's a few players under contract that we need to get rid of that should have gone maybe last season. But yeah, I'd like to give Rhys a chance. I'm happy with the attacking football. Defensively, you got to blame some of the players. I think you can't put all the blame on him. A few of them switch off. I don't want to name names, but there's certain players there who've had big careers and they're switching off. They're trying to win fouls for no reason. They're trying to play the game. The ref, you're thinking, just do your job, clear lines. But, they've thrown him under the bus a few times, the players have. Mentally, I think they look weak. So as long as he gets a say in the signings, because I think he knows we need big characters. We need to get some leaders in there. And we need, like I said, I think he's shown with 1 window what he can do. But yeah, I'm more than happy with it.
Big thank you to Rees for his contribution, as always. But we don't stop there with the fan opinion. Let's finish on a big positive. Let's take away from a big positive this evening with the fan view. And Donna, whose girls are regular vloggers on the channel, very excited. Thank you for coming on, Donna. But what's the one thing, no matter how small, that makes you believe or maybe gives you hope that Cardiff will avoid relegation, and why?
The only hope I have that Cardiff City won't get relegated is due to the fact we have some homegrown players in Keane Ashford, Ruben Colwell, Isaac Davis, who have come through the academy to start playing in the first team. They are fans as well as players, so they know how much the club means to us all, and it should do to them as well. I mean, Ruben Colwell used to go on the Cardiff City Supporters Club bus to watch away games when he was a child. So, he's doing what we all want to do. He's on that pitch playing for our club. We also have Aaron Ramsey and, of course, Joe Ross, who I believe bleed blue blood. I know they're injured, but surely they can rile people up in that change room and say, come on, guys, we can stay up. We've also got strikers, Callum Robinson and Salip, which we haven't had since Kiefer Moore, where you do know that if they get the service, they can get that ball in the net. And at the end of the day, a lot of our players aren't that bad. I mean, Callum O'Dowd on his day, he's brilliant. He's best than a League One player. As are, there's others there that should be playing in that Championship every week, not League One. So I'm staying a little bit hopeful, and we've got to get some wins. I mean, we haven't had a winning streak, I don't think, all season. We've been drawing and beaten. There's a time that we can get a running streak together. It's now. So Let's not give up hope. We can do this.
Thank you, Donna. Nice to finish on a little bit of a positive, and it does seem like a lot of tonight's show, the main positives seem to be about those young players, and it's an exciting time. But Cardiff must stay up. They must stay up to hold on to those players, because otherwise we could see a mass exodus, a fire sale, if you like, and that would be absolutely disastrous after all the good work that has been done in the academy by the likes of Gavin Chesterfield, of Darren Pearce, and of course others. But it remains to be seen. It's going to be an incredibly nerve-wracking few weeks for Bluebirds fans, and it's a massive game. I think QPR is a winnable game, but it'll be difficult. Maybe this team is set up better to play away. I'm not sure. Maybe the pressure is a little bit away, a bit less away from home. I'm not sure. I want to say a massive thank you to all the guests this evening: Glen Williams, Tony Reese, Martin, Donna, Rhys David Evans, and everybody who's contributed in the comments and all that good stuff. We'll be back live next week, but I appreciate your patience, and hopefully, everything will fall into place nicely. But please do stick with us. We've got more fan opinion in the Welsh Football Hour, as well as looking at Merthyr Town's fight for the title, and of course, the JD Cymru this weekend. Some big games as the race for European places, the title, and of course the relegation battle hots up. It's a big weekend in the JD Cymru. Join us next for the Welsh Football Hour.
Wow! What a goal! Be a part of the action and help Cymru Sport to cover more games across the country.
It's 3-2! Oh my words! Where did that come from?
Your business can sponsor a commentary, reaching football fans with your message at the same time as supporting our live commentary of Welsh sports. Contact us today by emailing advertising@cymrusport.cymru.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Si. This is Cardiff City World live on Cymru Sport. If you're watching on Cardiff City World or you're listening on Cymru Sport, we welcome you. I am delighted to welcome you to another edition of the Welsh Football Hour, where we talk all things Welsh football, from the Welsh national team to JD Cymru to the EFL clubs. We talk about it all, even grassroots sometimes. We like to investigate all aspects of Welsh football. In a couple of weeks, we have the FA head of domestic football, Jack Sharp, joining us, which is another great guest from within the FAW camp. I'm really excited to speak to Jack about a whole host of subjects. And look, you've heard my thoughts on Wales under Craig Bellamy. You've heard what I think on the Cymru Ambyrdd podcast, the Welsh podcast, the Welsh football show that we do. You've heard it on Cymru Sport Radio, of course. So what I wanted to add this week was a fan view of what Craig Bellamy has done under, or what Wales have done under Craig Bellamy, should I say. I apologise. So joining me is Pan, a.k.a. the Greek League. You might have seen him on Cardiff City World. He's a regular contributor with his Welsh content and sometimes Cardiff content. Please do check that out. It's really interesting stuff. But let's see what Pan thinks of Craig Bellamy's Wales.
Hi everyone, my name is Pan, aka the Greek League, and welcome to another edition of Ace Podcast Nation. Today we're going to have a look at Wales' first two qualifying games for the World Cup 2026, analyse how the team are doing and how Craig Bellamy's doing, and kind of look forward to the next few games and what we need to do really to qualify. So we started the campaign at home to Kazakhstan in March. Obviously, Craig Bellamy was unlucky enough to not have our best two players really, in Harry Wilson and Ampadu. So he brought in Sheehan and Cullen in that role, played like a 4-2-3-1 system, which he tends to do a lot, although he switches it up. And Darlow was in goal and Johnson was up front instead of Moore. I was a bit worried about Kazakhstan because not so long ago we played Armenia home, and we know what happened there. So, obviously some Welsh fans were a little bit nervous going into this first game, especially without our two best players. But what was fantastic was that post-Bale, we haven't seen a knock-on effect to the crowds reducing. I mean, it was 32,500, near enough sellout at Cardiff City Stadium, which was fantastic. And I think that's partly to do as well with Craig Bellamy, because obviously the brand of football, the style of play, and obviously being unbeaten leading up to that match in the first 6 games. I think the first Welsh manager in history to do that obviously helped as well. So amazing, really, to get that kind of crowd for Kazakhstan, who really is no players we really know. So it was a great start. Dan James scoring early on, and I think obviously it was one of those games where it was never going to be easy. Kazakhstan put most of the players behind the ball. They got a lucky break with a penalty, but in the end, we came out 3-1 winners. So it was a really good start to the campaign. Obviously, then we played North Macedonia away, which was a few days later, and that was always going to be a tough game because North Macedonia have beaten Italy and Germany at home. They've also recently drawn with England at home, so they're no mugs on their own ground. The crowd there, they get right behind. They're very passionate. So, and they've got a few really good players as well. Elmas plays in Torino in Italy. So I think Bellamy, I think this is a great thing, the difference between Bellamy and Page, that he's willing to change it when he needs to be changed and not stick with the same players. The loyalty that Page showed some of the players was partly the reason why he lost his job, really. And I think it was really good to see Nico come in for Roberts on the right. Ben Davis went left back. Metham came in. And then obviously Jordan James came in instead of Cullen. So there were some changes there. And I think Broadhead came in as well instead of Brooksy. So he wasn't scared to make those changes. And to be honest, I was really surprised. We actually dominated North Macedonia. We were all over them, really. I was surprised how North Macedonia set up. But, obviously scoring the goal for them, from Alan's awful back pass. I turned the TV off. I thought that was it. It was like 90 odd minutes when I thought that was the end. I then came back and realised we'd scored. So we definitely deserved at least a point. We definitely deserved not to lose that game. But I think the issue really in that one is that, we dominated enough and we should have put them away. I think obviously a lot of criticism about Johnson as the 9. He doesn't play that role really for Spurs. And he's not a natural 9. And I think Kiefer coming on proved that, having a big number 9 there sort of imposed himself on defenders led to our goal. So something to ponder really for the future, because I think that's one of our weakest positions really in terms of having a natural centre forward. Although Kiefer Moore, as I said, he does well for Wales in certain scenarios, but I'm not so sure Craig Bellamy likes to start more. He likes a more fluid system. He likes having a team with pace. But 4 points from the first 2 games, I'm really happy with that. I think obviously, Craig Bellamy, 8 games unbeaten now. I think the whole nation's behind him. We've got 2 big games coming up in June. We've got Liechtenstein at home, which we need to win 5-6-0 really, because goal differs could come into play. I'm not saying any side is easy to beat, but after the Gibraltar debacle with Page, where we drew 0-0, we can't be looking at anything other than a 3-4-5-0 win against Liechtenstein. I think we're ranked 204 in the world. So we should have Ampadu and Harry Wilson back. And I've got no doubt we'll win that quite comfortably. But the big one, obviously, is a few days later away to Belgium in June, in Brussels. That's the one that's going to really decide this group, I think. And Belgium did really well in the Nations League playoff recently, 3-1 down in the first leg in Ukraine. And they beat Ukraine 3-0 at home with Lukaku scoring a couple. So that maintained their Nations League A place. As we are in now. So Belgium, they're no mugs, but our record against them is really good. I'm sort of confident that, with Wilson and Ampadu back, that if we've got our best players out, we'd have every chance of winning that game. The one thing I would say, and I don't know if any Wales fans are aware of this, but in June, when we play games, we've got an appalling record. In 15 games since 2021, we've only actually won 2 games. Which is pretty appalling, really. So I don't know whether that is because the season ends in May. You're off for 4 or 5 weeks before you come back into the Wales setup. And really, a lot of those players I've seen in many games before in June not match fit. I think one of those defeats in June was against Armenia at home, 4-2. So we haven't done well in June. So that is a little bit concerned. But I think under Craig Bellamy that would be completely different. I mean, what I was really pleased to see is when we scored the equaliser, because after, in North Macedonia, we got the ball out the net straight away to get that kickoff to try and win it. Because I think that the team, the lads there really believed, thought that they were in a chance of winning the game. They really wanted to win. We were quick with the throw-ins. I think that's just a different way of the whole system, the whole philosophy in the squad compared to Page. Bellamy's installed that in the players. Bellamy's a natural winner, and I think that's shown by the attitude of the players on the pitch. Ben Davies was magnificent. Dan James, Sober Thomas in that game. Fantastic. So it's really good how we're looking really going into these June fixtures. I think looking at it, if we get a point in Brussels, that is the bare minimum really, because we've got to beat Belgium at home. That's bearing in mind if we win all our remaining other games. We've got North Macedonia at home, Kazakhstan away, which won't be easy, but we should win that. And Liechtenstein, you'd expect 6 points. So if everything goes our way and we get a point in Brussels, we've got to beat then Belgium at home, because if that happens, the most points Belgium can get are 19 if they win all the games, and then the most points we can get are 20. So we really have to get something in Brussels in June to give us an opportunity of finishing top in this group. Now, we already know that we're guaranteed near enough a playoff spot, which is all well and good, but as most fans know, qualifying for a World Cup is really hard, and it will mean a 2-match playoff scenario where you've got a semi-final. I think 16 teams are involved, the 4 best Nation League finalists or something, or finishers, and then you've got 12 second place teams in the groups. So it's not going to be easy at all. So I just hope that we can win this group, because, as I said, they'll be quite nerve-wracking if we do have to go through the playoffs. So you can guarantee there'll be 2 pretty tough games to get to Mexico, USA, and Canada 2026. So overall, really pleased with the start. Yes, we would have liked 6 points. I think North Macedonia thought they'd won the World Cup when they scored in the last minute against us, because we were all over them. But, I think North Macedonia will give problems to Belgium in their game at their place. So, it's not necessarily just a case of taking points off Belgium. They might slip up possibly in North Macedonia. So there's loads of games to play. It all depends. Obviously, we need a bit of luck. We've probably really got 13, 14, what I call, first team players for Wales. And then you're looking at other players like the Sheehan's and that, were sort of on the fringes. But there's a lot of positivity in the Wales squad. We've got a lot of players coming through the ranks. Obviously Kumas has come in recently. You've got Joe Lowe of Wickham, who's doing so well in defence. He'll probably end up at a top championship club next season if Wickham don't go up. Joe Taylor at Huddersfield as well, who signed there recently from Luton, and he's a pretty good goal scorer, so he might come into the reckoning in the next few months. And obviously Owen Beck of Liverpool, who's been on loan at Blackburn. Unfortunately, he's got an injury, so he'll be out probably the rest of the season. But for the new season, I would hope that he would challenge for a place there, and hopefully have Nico on the right and Owen Beck on the left as an option. So I'll get your thoughts in comments, guys, to Ace Podcast Nation. It'd be great to know how you think things have gone so far. Wales, do you think Wales will qualify? What do you think in terms of points-wise we need? Would you suggest that any certain players need to come in for the Belgium game other than sort of Amtu and Wilson? And what kind of system do you think we would play? So it'd be great to hear your thoughts. Please like and subscribe on the channel. We really appreciate it. And I'll see you soon.
The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
Massive thank you to Pan for that. It was a real good roundup. Really enjoyed it. Always enjoy his roundup and his content videos. They're always really interesting and quite thought provoking. After the break, we'll be talking Merthyr Town. Welcome back to the show. I'm Si. This is the Welsh Football Hour live on Cymru Sport and Cardiff City World. And good evening to the Martyrs fans. As we approach the climax of the 24-25 season, it is a time to reflect on Merthyr Town's journey so far. From thrilling victories to challenging setbacks, the Martyrs have experienced a roller coaster of a campaign. Let's delve into some of those highs and lows, standout performances, the crucial fixtures ahead as they chase promotion and, of course, the league title. Merthyr kicked off the season with a commanding 6-0 victory against Tiverton on August the 10th, 2024, setting an optimistic tone for the season. However, those early stages presented some mixed results, including a 2-1 defeat to Gloucester City on August 26th. Despite these initial challenges, the team demonstrated resilience, embarking on an impressive unbeaten run from late September right through to mid-November. There was dominant performances as the Martyrs showcased their attacking prowess. They had emphatic wins, most notably a 6-0 thrashing of Poole Town on the 14th of December, just before Christmas in 2024. Remarkably, all 6 goals were scored in the second half, which is quite mad, highlighting the team's offensive capabilities and stamina and their ability to take games away from the opposition. Their stellar defence has been a big part of their push for promotion and, of course, the title. A series of clean sheets, including a 4-0 victory over Frome Town in October, a 2-0 win against Taunton Town on January the 25th, has underscored that team's defensive solidity. The lows of the season have been pretty few and far between, but the cup exits will be a bit disappointment. The Martyrs faced early exits in the cup competitions with a narrow 2-1 defeat to Bath City in the FA Cup on September the 1st and a 1-0 loss to AFC Tottenham in the FA Trophy on October the 5th. The inconsistent results have seemingly fallen away a little bit now, but the team encountered a series of draws in early 2025, including 4 consecutive stalemates in January, which momentarily probably stalled their momentum in the league and maybe gave fans a bit of anxiety regarding promotion and title contendership, but not for long. Their recent form has been superb. As the season has progressed, Merthyr Town have really regained their stride. A notable 5-1 victory over Bracknell Town on February the 22nd, 2025, reignited their promotion ambitions and definitely their title charge. Some subsequent matches saw a mix of results, but crucially, the Martyrs have remained in contention for that top spot. This weekend, the season nears its conclusion. Every match carries significant weight. This Saturday, April the 5th, 2025, Merthyr Town face a pivotal away fixture against a formidable opponent. A victory here is essential to bolster their promotion hopes, and they apply pressure to their rivals. With regards to their remaining matches, following this weekend's clash, the Martyrs have a series of fixtures that will determine their fate. Consistency will be the key as they aim to secure the points, capitalise on any slip-ups by their contenders, and hold on to that top spot, which they've made their own in recent weeks. In terms of the off-the-field developments this season, it's never quiet with these Welsh clubs for some reason, whether it's Cardiff, Swansea, Merthyr or anyone else. But Merthyr Town, and as they enter that final stretch, it's you can't but make a reference, I guess. Discussions had emerged regarding Merthyr's potential transition to the Welsh domestic system. In November of 2024, the Football Association of Wales approached the club with a proposal to join an expanded Cymru Premier from 2026. The development sparked a considerable amount of debate amongst fans and media, and of course the stakeholders, about the club's future direction. It was pretty clear from the offset that the fans were not on board with any such suggestion. In conclusion, Merthyr Town enter the final stretch of the 24-25 season. The stakes cannot be higher. The team's blend of attacking flair, defensive resilience has positioned them as genuine contenders for the title, with crucial fixtures on the horizon, including this weekend's match. The Martyrs have an opportunity to etch their names in the club's storied history. Let's rally behind the team, support them in their quest as they push on for a title victory and a special, special summer for the Merthyr fans. Next up, we'll be talking the Cymru Premier. Please do join us as we finish off the Welsh Football Hour.
If you're hearing this, so are your potential customers. Be heard and reach sports fans across the country. We have advertising opportunities available throughout our programmes, website and commentaries. Working with you, we will create a bespoke package and make sure your message reaches the people you want to hear it. Contact us today to find out how Cymru Sport could help your business. Email contact@cymrusport.cymru.
Welcome back. It's Cymru Sport Radio. It's Cardiff City World if you're watching on video. This is the Welsh Football Hour. I am Si. Good evening. We're getting into the home stretch of the show this evening now. It's been a jam-packed show of fan opinion, special guests, and a little bit in between. As always, we love talking football. We love talking Welsh football. And we approach another thrilling weekend in the Cymru Premier. The competition is heating up. There's pivotal matches that could significantly impact the standings. Let's delve a little bit into the key fixtures, the current league positions, and what to expect in this exciting round of games. As of the 2nd of April, the top of the table looks something like this. The TNS at the top with 72. Penybont in second with 58. What an achievement. Haverfordwest, 49 points. Carnarvon Town, 44. And Cardiff Met, 42. With Bala Town then behind him with 33 points in 6th position. TNS lead the pack with a commanding 72 points, of course, as I just mentioned. Showcasing their dominance this season. Penybont trailing in second with 58. As we push on, the battle for the European qualification spots remains intense. Carnarvon Town and Cardiff Met closely contesting that European spot. This weekend's matches are crucial as teams vie for those top positions and fight to avoid relegation. Here are the fixtures scheduled. So Friday the 4th, 2025, Barrytown United host Newtown. Connors Quay Nomads host Barlatown. Flint Town United host Britain Ferry. Aberystwyth Town host Carnarvon. And Cardiff Met versus Penybont. Wow, what a fixture. And then on the Saturday, we've got TNS versus Haverfordwest. It is going to be interesting. Let's take a little bit of a look into some of those games. TNS versus Haverfordwest. TNS sitting comfortably at the top. Will the host, third placed will host, Haverfordwest. A win for TNS would further, solidify their title aspirations. They're looking very comfortable running away with it a little bit. Whilst Haverfordwest will aim to close the gap and strengthen their hold on that European spot. Cardiff Met versus Penybont. What a game that is. 5th placed Cardiff Met face 2nd placed Penybont in a crucial encounter. Cardiff Met seek to boost their European qualification hopes, whereas Penybont aim to maintain the little bit of pressure on TNS as the season comes to an end in the coming weeks. Aberystwyth Town and Carnarvon. Aberystwyth, currently at the bottom, face a challenging task as they play 4th place Carnarvon Town. A victory is essential for Aberystwyth to have any hopes of staying alive in the Cymru Prem. And then we got Flint Town United versus Britain Ferry. Both teams battling relegation, making this a traditional 6-pointer. Flint Town, with slight edge in points, will be looking to capitalise on the home advantage and make that gap a little bit bigger. Connors Town Nomads versus Bala Town. Mid-table Connors Quay host Barlatown, with both teams aiming to finish the season strongly, potentially breaking into the top half. And then really finally, we have Barrytown United versus Newtown. Barrytown, leading the relegation group, face Newtown, who are struggling near the bottom. A win for Barry would secure their safety, whilst Newtown desperately need points in their bid to avoid the drop. This weekend, the Cymru Premier fixtures promise excitement and drama as teams battle for supremacy. European spots and survival. Fans can anticipate intense matches with significant implications on their league standings. Stay tuned for what promises to be a captivating round of Welsh football. And of course, you can catch many of these games live on Cymru Sport Radio. So, and also, if you are at a loose end with Cardiff being away and you haven't gone to QPR and you need your football fix, go and watch your local Welsh League side. I have got one eye on Pen y Bont versus Cardiff Met. I have to say that is a game which looks really interesting to me. Proving to be an exciting weekend in the JD Cymru. It's an exciting weekend for Merthyr Town, of course, and it's a stressful weekend for Swansea. Probably need one more win to be assured of safety. Cardiff, got to find those wins somewhere if they're going to avoid relegation. Wrexham are pushing for promotion spots to get to the Championship. Wouldn't it be nice to have 3 Welsh clubs in the Championship? It would be great. Thank you ever so much for joining me this evening. We will be back live next week. But, and of course, a massive thank you to all my guests, Tony Reese, Glen Williams, Martin, Rhys, Donna, Pan. Thank you so much. The fan view is what makes this show so special, as well as the incredible guests that we have. We'll have all new guests next week. We'll have all new fan view and all the latest news from Cardiff City, 7 till 8 and 8 till 9, the Welsh Football Hour. As always, it has been my pleasure to spend a couple of hours with you this evening. Take care, and we'll see you in a bit.
I've experienced, what it's like to, support Wales away from home, and all I've got to say is, it's magical, right? Like it's a magical feeling being in that away end, and it's like it's a feeling of euphoria, but it's very hard to replicate that over a 30,000 person stadium. Not saying we haven't had good atmospheres before in the past at Cardiff City or wherever we play, but I just think that sort of north-south divide and all that, maybe even club divide, that seems to go away on Wales aways, from what I've gathered. And I'm not I'm not a veteran.
Tomorrow,
yeah. My mates are all out there now, and it looks unbelievable. Not to say like they're just mixing with every other sort of Welsh fan there is, but I'm sure in the stadium they will be. And I just think, I don't know, why can't we just scale that out? Or is it just because we're playing away and they're all having a wicked time? Like,
I think,
is it that, or is it just?
Though, mate, I think football generally, away fans are better, like atmosphere-wise.
Yeah. It's hard to ask for it to emulate over, but there needs to be some bit to that to like happen at home. No.
Yeah, I 100%, mate. But I also think part of it is the people who would make the noise are not always sat in the same place as part of the stadium, and there's all sorts of issues with it. But ultimately, I think it's kind of the way football generally is going. Like the atmospheres are getting watered down so much because of things that football clubs put in place. Ultimately, they just want families in there, don't they? And they want tickets, and they want tourists and day trippers and the rest of it. But it's just part and parcel of football being where it is in the modern day, which is why if you always give most people a choice of going home or away, they'll go away because
100%.
The atmosphere is just so much better. I couldn't speak to you, Rob, without asking you about really the man who spearheaded and started the revolution of Welsh football. I mean, obviously John Toshak brought in some of the youngsters, but it was obviously Gary Speed who took that on and really changed the way Welsh football viewed itself, I think, in terms of the professionalism off the field, playing the youngsters, the way we went about playing football, the way we conducted ourselves overall. It felt like there was a big change. What's some of your sort of best memories of Gary, if you don't mind sharing?
There's plenty. First of all, he was a lovely fella. There used to be a time where we'd travel with the team, and they'd made a muck up on the seats, and so a couple of the Welsh players had to sit among the media, which is not normal at all. And Gary Speed was one of them, and he saw myself and Tommy Morgan, who used to summarise for Radio Cymru. He said, "I'll go and sit with Rob and Tommy," which was the mark of the man as far as I was concerned, because some players would run a mile from sitting next to a journo. But we talked a bit of football, but not much. It was more about guitars and stuff like that. And then there was another moment where, when they were in America, and I thought had gone on the trip. I thought he pulled out the trip with a back injury. So they said to me in the office the Friday afternoon, "Oh, give Gary a ring, see if he can do something looking ahead to the game." And I did ring him, and he said, "Rob, do you know what time it is here?" And I said, "Well, it's whatever time it was with me." I said, "You're over here, aren't you?" "No," he said, "I've come away with the squad." But he said, "Ring me back in a couple of hours and I'll do something with you." That was how good he was. And as a player, what a brilliant player. Obviously won. There was football before the Premier League. Obviously won the last Division 1 title in that brilliant Leeds midfield. Great footballer. And this sums him up to me. The first, I'm pretty certain one of his first games was like a nations, what do they call it? Carling Nations competition in the Republic of Ireland, where Northern Ireland Republic. So we lost anyway. I'm pretty sure it was his first game. I'd have to check that. We lost, and I was stood in the airport and I was looking a bit glum. And he said, "What's up, Rob?" And I said, "Getting used to this now, just going on trips and losing, and it's just getting a bit fed up." And he gave me the 5-minute pep talk of my life, saying, "You've got to get out of this, because give us time, we'll do this, we'll do that." And he had me bouncing by the end. I want to get out and play as I go on the plane. And of course, I can't help thinking, but I remember the 4-1 win over Norway, and the last interview I did with him, which was about 2 weeks before the news came through. And that's a day I'll never forget, because I was in the shower. I was just getting up, actually, and I had a phone call to say, "Rob, sit down. I got some really bad news. Gary Speed has passed away." We didn't know exactly what it was then. And I didn't wait. I got in the shower, got dressed, said to the kids, "I'm off to work. I don't really know what time I'm going to be home." And we did a phone-in special that afternoon, just about Gary Speed. Howard Wilkinson was on there. Rob Earnshaw, really emotional, was on there. And I sensed, it was one of those stories, Simon, where for maybe 2 weeks you thought of absolutely nothing else. It obsesses I know I'm a journalist, so I'm detached. I'm not, it's not me who's suffering, although we all suffered the heartbreak of Gary Speed. But it was the same with Salah. For 2-3 weeks, thought about nothing else. And in a happier way, going to the Ryder Cup in the Celtic Manor. Anything could have happened in the world outside, but all I was obsessed with. And the Gary Speed thing was one of those, so tragic, but then it showed so much how much he was loved.
The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.